Hi, welcome to Calico Flower Studio. I'm Dani, and today I'm going to work on a collage that is autumn inspired. And some of the things I'll be thinking about as I work are how our lives are very much cyclical, meaning there are many cycles within our lives, and this inspires much of my creative practice. So I'll be thinking about what all of this means to me and what it means in my work. So please just sit back and relax and enjoy. Thank you. And thank you, Clover.
All right, welcome to the table, my friend. I've got a bunch of goodies here today that I'm going to introduce you to. First, I have a piece of specialty paper. It's very thin and just kind of wispy and hairy. A piece of orange tissue paper with some sparkles on it. Some ornate tissue paper on a piece of watercolor paper with a rose pattern. A piece of patterned fabric. And another piece of patterned fabric. Some paint on paper. Crayon on paper. Two sides of a sign that I made for my wedding, in which I use these leaf shapes that I cut out from painted paper. More crayon on paper. Watercolor on paper. Acrylic on paper. More watercolor on paper with something interesting on both sides. A piece of a photograph that I took at an apple farm in Ohio. Paint on paper. Watercolor on paper. More watercolor on paper. Oil paint on paper. Acrylic paint on palette paper. Block printing ink on paper. Acrylic paint on paper. This one really has an interesting texture. And finally, colored pencil on paper. So today it is nice and cool outside. There's a beautiful fresh breeze blowing through my screen door right in front of me. And I am totally embracing October and soaking in all the fall vibes. Got my plant here, my newest friend. I've got my art supplies. And I've got a glass of water that I put a bag of chamomile tea in, so it's kind of like flavored water. Oh my gosh, I always do this. I forgot my scissors. So there you go. Let's get started. Now, I know that typically one might think of fall colors being primarily warm colors, like orange and yellow and red and brown, etc. And I do have those colors incorporated here today, but I'm also incorporating a lot of green, a little bit of blue and some gray. And I think this is because in the fall, I think a lot about nature and how it's changing. And that to me includes lots of colors. I'm incorporating blue here because I wanted to have a cool contrast to some of the warmer colors that I've got going on here. It's almost like October is that last time of year when we get really crisp blue skies and lots of sunshine until we dive deep into winter. And so I just kind of wanted to throw in a little dash of bright blue here. I have to be very careful to make sure that everything gets glued down and back to the way I want it to be, but I think I can handle it. I usually will take a piece of material and glue one side down while I hold the other side with my hand, and then I will lift up the other side and glue that down so the first side that I glued becomes like an anchor holding it in place. When I go to glue down the other side, everything is as it's supposed to be. So today I'm working in a notebook, like a regular old sketchbook. So the paper I'm using is kind of thin, but that's okay because I plan on actually cutting out this collage from this paper. So this paper will not be the final background to this collage. It kind of is going to act as a spine holding all of the pieces together, and then the collage itself becomes like an object that I can hold and mount onto another background. And that's why I don't mind that the paper is kind of curling and wrinkling a bit from the wetness of the glue. So please excuse the shadows, they are temporary. They're definitely not going to be a part of this piece in the end. October is such an interesting time of year because I think a lot about endings and turning inward and, quite frankly, death. It's like the antithesis to spring. Of course, spring is a time of birth. Lots of animals are awakening and giving birth to new young. Oh, speaking of animals, look who just showed up. Baby Clover. All right, Bubba. See you later. So spring is about birth and fall is about death. It's just like a meta model for the cycle of life because, we do live on one giant organism, I guess, if you think about the earth that way. Anyway, it's just so interesting because, death is kind of scary. It's just, well, death is a part of life, which sounds like a paradox, but it is, especially if you know anything about mushrooms. Anyway, so it's, something that sometimes we're a little fearful of. And so it's like October naturally tends to become this time of year where, we have Halloween and everybody's embracing their sense of fear and almost cozying up to these things that are strange and mysterious and unknown. It's like our last hurrah before we head into darkness. It's a fun time, right? It's just because of the person that I am and the things that I find interesting, the things that I like to think about and gravitate towards, these concepts of cycles and how life is cyclical. Oh my goodness, we have another interruption, another cameo. All right, we got to slow down for this one. Hello, my baby girl. She's my little pumpkin cat, You know what I call her? I call her my chocolate chip pumpkin roll. or she's also my toasted marshmallow. She looks like a toasted marshmallow because she's kind of brown with little bits of charred, like black spots, but she's mostly soft and white like a marshmallow. Yes, she is my fall baby. All right, anyway. So life is cyclical, and I find that fascinating. I think about cycles a lot, and I used to think about it maybe more specifically as it pertains to life at home and how we have our routines and rituals that all take place just within our living space. I mean, the kitchen, for one, is just like a huge cycle of cleaning and dirtying, of creating and consuming, depleting and restocking. It's just an endless cycle, and it's a life-sustaining cycle. You think about laundry, you think about getting up in the morning, going to bed, making your bed, turning down your bed. So yeah, I was thinking about cycles in that way, and then I started to really develop a strong relationship to my materials. And I found that becoming more and more the focus of my artistic practice. So I think about how just within my practice, physical material cycles through. I'll create collages, I'll create drawings, I'll create paintings, I will cut fabric, acquire tissue paper, and on and on and on. And it gets used and it has one purpose at one point, but then that purpose expires. And then I take that material and as a natural process that I've established in my practice, I'll break it down into smaller pieces and reuse it for something else in the future. I think about it as a kind of parallel process to what happens in nature. We have living creatures, plants, animals, and even non-living things like minerals and vitamins, stones and sand, whatever, sediments, I guess. They get broken down and everything is broken down and it all kind of nourishes itself and basically rebuilds something new from that. And this cycle has been around since time immemorial, if that's the right phrase. It's just never ending. I love that, and I find it inspiring. This infinite cycle of everything. Whenever I'm making art, I have to take a moment to think. I always sort of like roll the glue off of my fingers. It's so satisfying to peel it off. You know, I'm not sure about the direction that this collage is taking right now. So I don't know about this. Let me think about it. Try some things. Yeah, no, I'm just going to rip these off. I don't care. Even if they leave a little bit of residual paper, it's okay. It is what it is. We'll make it work. So at this point, I'm starting to catch myself doing something that is very easy for me to fall into, especially when I feel a little bit out of practice. But I caught myself trying to make something specific. And I found that in my practice, if I allow myself to be led by the material, the result is way more interesting and exciting to me than if I cook something up in my mind and really try to create that image of something. So basically, if I tell myself that I'm going to make a potted plant out of these materials, then I move forward and everything that I do is in service of that thought. And I just don't like it. I don't know. It doesn't look great. It doesn't excite me in any way. It's not interesting to me, and I found myself doing that just now. And so, even if this is already beginning to look like a potted plant, I'm going to abandon that and just kind of like work with what I got here. Still invoking thoughts about, organic life, but not necessarily trying to make something specific. And so I need to free myself from that expectation in order to really have a fruitful process. And that might not vibe with other artists. I mean, at times myself, I'll have projects where I have to make something very specific, and I have to keep that specific thing in mind every step that I take. And so that is a reality, and it's very useful in many ways. But when I'm doing my thing, this thing right here, I got to do it my way, and I enjoy it. I love circles. It's like the symbol of cycles. Nick and I just recently watched a documentary. I think it's called like Into Infinity or something like that, or like To Infinity and Beyond. I don't know. But it was just about the concept of infinity. And they talk about circles as the mathematical representation of infinity. And like that stuff just blows my mind. Oh my gosh, I just remembered that these pieces have another side. This is that two-sided piece that I was telling you about. I really like this side with the brown and the writing. It looks very, it almost gives it like a narrative quality. I love the contrast of this red, how it just really pops. Alright, so pretty soon here, after I apply this last little bit of orange at the top, I'm going to take my brush and my glue, which is a clear drying matte adhesive, and I'm going to seal the entire collage, meaning I'm actually going to brush the glue over the entire collage, and after it dries, I'm going to cut it out from this piece of paper so that I can remount it onto a different background. I like that little piece of orange. It looks like my collage is giving the finger. So while I was waiting for this to dry before I cut it out, I actually created another piece with leftover material. So I'm going to attach it to the bottom of the first piece. I think that the first original piece was missing something, and this just totally completes it for me. Now this collage is a bit bigger than the ones I've been making lately on this channel, but I think that's cool, man. So I will attach these two so that they become one piece. I'll put it on a nice background, maybe put it in a frame or something. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. I think it's so much fun. What do you think it is? Is it like the pile of laundry that's on my bed right now? Or is it a monster with googly eyes? Or is it a potted plant? I don't know. You tell me. Leave a comment and please subscribe to this channel. I noticed that a lot of people who watch these videos actually aren't subscribed, and so if you subscribe to this channel, it literally costs you nothing, and it helps out the channel. It helps make these videos more visible so more people can also enjoy this process. And if you're subscribed, or if you subscribe after watching this, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed it. And Thank you so much for joining me. I had a lovely time, and I hope you did too. So please take good care and have an awesome day.